This video tutorial demonstrates how to use the Maptitude Routing and Directions Manager. Make sure that your map contains the Here Street layer that is included with your country package. I'm going to close the Display Manager for now to have a little more room, and then click this button, or choose Tools, Routing and Directions Manager. Choose the first option to add a new route to the workspace. Enter a name for the route, and click OK. There are several ways to choose the locations that you want to visit on your route. The first method is to enter an address. For example, I want to start at my office, so I will enter 1172 Beacon Street, and then I can enter either the city and state or just the postal code 02461. When I click Add, this first stop is added to the itinerary. A second method is to click this button and use a point layer. This is particularly useful if you have many stops that you want to add. Choose the layer to use, in my case the customer layer. Choose whether to use all the records in the layer or a filtered selection set. If you already have a field that lists the order to visit the stops, you would choose it here. Otherwise, choose None to have Maptitude determine the order, or if you want to specify the order manually in the Routing Manager. Choose a field to use to identify the stops. I'm going to use the customer name field that Maptitude has already suggested. And finally, if your layer contains fields with information on stop duration or times, you can optionally specify those fields here. When I click OK, you can see that my customers have now been added to the itinerary. The last method for adding stops is to use this tool to manually click on the map at a stop location. You can change the order of stops by highlighting a stop in the list and using either of these buttons to move the stop up or down. If I right-click on a stop, you can see that there are several options. I can schedule, rename, or remove a stop. For example, I'm going to schedule a 30-minute stop with this customer, and I'm going to remove this last stop that I manually added. If the stops are in the order that you want to visit them, click Directions. Maptitude finds the fastest route to visit the stops in the specified order. You can see that this route covers almost 80 miles and requires 3¼ hours of driving time. Click the plus buttons to see the directions from stop to stop. For example, here are the directions from stop 5 to stop 6. You can also click this button to create a PDF file with the route directions. The first page will show the overall route with successive pages showing the stop-to-stop directions and maps. Now, instead of manually setting the stop order, you can have Maptitude optimize a route that requires less driving. If I click Optimize, you can see that Maptitude finds a route that is much faster. This route is just over 40 miles and requires only 2¼ hours of driving time. There are several additional route options available in the Routing Manager. Click this button to open the Route Options dialog box. On the General tab, you can choose whether to find the route based on distance or travel time, choose what color to display the route, and choose to use the stop names on the map instead of numbers. On the Driving Speeds tab, you can make adjustments based on the road class. And on the Itinerary tab, you can set the driving schedule and fuel consumption parameters. I'm going to set a stop duration of 10 minutes at each stop. I also want to return to my office when I'm done, so I'm going to right-click on the first stop, choose Choose as End, and confirm that I also want this stop to be my last stop. Now if I click Optimize again, you'll see that the route now returns to my office where I started, and it will take just over 5 hours of driving and stopping time. Routes are saved in the workspace, and you can have multiple routes in the workspace. For example, if I click this button, I can create a second route. This time I'll manually add a stop here and at the airport. Click Directions to complete this second route, and close the Routing and Directions Manager. If I click this button or choose the menu command, I now have the choice of creating a third route or opening one of the existing ones. And that wraps up this tutorial on finding routes with Maptitude.